Dr. Amy Carter pressed her face against the cold window of the research ship New Dawn and stared into the black space beyond Neptune. The scanner readings made no sense at all. Something massive was drifting out there in the Kuiper Belt. Something that did not belong. Amy had been studying alien lifeforms for 12 years, but she had never seen anything like this on her screens. The object was huge, maybe 20 miles long, and shaped like no ship humans had ever built. It looked more like a giant sea creature than a spacecraft with smooth curves and what appeared to be fins or wings. Stretched along its sides, Captain Jake Morrison walked up behind her and looked at the same readings. His weathered face showed concern as he studied the data. The object was giving off heat signatures, but they were fading fast, like a dying fire. Emmy, this thing is not in any of our databases, Jake said quietly. It does not match any known alien technology. We should report this to Earth Command and let them decide what to do. Amy shook her head as she watched the energy readings drop even lower on her screen. Whatever this thing was, it was running out of power. She could see patterns in the energy flow that reminded her of a heartbeat, but the beats were getting weaker and slower. Jake, we cannot just leave it out here, Amy said. Her voice was firm, but she kept her eyes on the scanner readings. This is a living creature, I am sure of it. Look at these bio readings. The whole structure is organic. It has a circulatory system and neural pathways. This is not a machine. Chief Engineer Ben Miller joined them at the observation window. He was a practical man who had spent 20 years keeping ships running in deep space. Ben looked at the readings and frowned. The power signatures were unlike anything he had ever seen before. If it is alive, Ben said slowly, we do not know if it is dangerous. Our weapons would not even scratch something that size. If it decided to attack us, we should keep our distance and call for backup. Me felt her heart racing as she watched the creature drift helplessly through space. She had dedicated her life to understanding alien biology, and everything she saw told her this was a dying sentient being. The neural activity was too complex to be anything else. Security Officer Lisa Stone stepped up to the group. She was responsible for keeping the crew safe. In her hand rested on her sidearm as she studied the massive form outside. Lisa had fought in the Mars conflicts, and she knew danger when she saw it. Captain Morrison, Lisa said, her voice steady but tense. I recommend we maintain current distance and prepare for immediate departure. This could be a trap. We have no idea what weapons that thing might have. Vamy turned away from the window and faced the others. She could see the fear in their eyes, but she also saw curiosity. The discovery of a living alien creature this size would change everything humans knew about life in the universe. Please, Amy said, looking directly at Jake. You all know me. I have never asked for anything dangerous before, but this creature is dying, and we might be its only hope for survival. We could learn more from this one being than from decades of research. Studied Amy carefully. He had worked with her for 3 years and knew she was brilliant and careful. She had never put the crew at risk before, but he could see something different in her eyes. Now a determination he had not seen before. The readings showed the creature was still losing power. Its biosigns were getting weaker by the hour. Whatever had hurt it was killing it slowly. Jake knew that. Amy was right about one thing. This might be their only chance to study a living alien of this size. What would it take to get close enough for Amy to do her scans? Jake asked Ben, looked at his engineering displays, and ran some quick calculations. The creature was not moving under its own power, so they could approach safely enough. The real question was whether their equipment could handle the strange energy fields around it. Can get us within scanning range, Ben said after a moment, but I want full shields up and engines ready for emergency departure. The whole time, Lisa nodded her agreement. That is acceptable, Captain, but I want full weapons ready as well, and the first sign of hostile action, we retreat immediately. Amy felt a surge of gratitude toward her crewmates. They were scared, but they were willing to help her investigate. She turned back to the window and watched the massive creature slowly rotating in the darkness of spaces. The new dawn moved closer. Amy could see more details of the alien being. Its surface was covered in what looked like crystalline growths that pulsed with faint light. The crystals were arranged in complex patterns that reminded Amy of neural networks in a brain. The closer they got, the more convinced Amy became that this was not just a living creature, but an intelligent one. The patterns were too organized to be random, and she could see areas that looked like they might be sensory organs or communication arrays. Jake called out coordinates to the helm as they approached. The creature was even larger than their first scans had indicated. It was easily the size of a small city, and its biomass readings were off the charts. This was possibly the largest living being humans had ever encountered. Amy rushed to her laboratory and began preparing her scanning equipment. She had devices designed to analyze alien biology without causing harm. The trick would be getting close enough to use them without putting the crew in danger. As the new dawn settled into position near what appeared to be the creature head, Amy began her scans. The readings that came back made her gasp in amazement. The creature brain was massive and incredibly complex, far more advanced than any Earth animal. But the most shocking discovery was that the creature was aware of them. Amy could see neural activity spike when their ship had approached it, knew they were there, and it was trying to communicate. Tommy ran to the bridge with her findings. "The creature is trying to talk to us," she announced breathlessly. "It's sending out bioelectric pulses and patterns. I think it knows we are here." Jake looked at the communication displays, but saw nothing. Human equipment was not designed to detect bioelectric signals from living creatures. The New Dawn communication systems could only handle radio waves and digital transmissions. Amy went back to her lab and began modifying her biological scanners to detect the creature's communication attempts. It took her several hours, but finally she began to pick up the faint signals the creature was sending. The patterns were complex, but Amy could see they were not random. There was structure and repetition that suggested language, or at least an attempt to make contact. The creature was reaching out to them with what little strength it had left. When Amy reported her findings to the crew, they gathered around her workstation in amazement. They were witnessing first contact with an intelligent alien species, and the alien was dying right in front of them. Amy felt tears in her eyes as she watched the creatures. Vital signs continued to weaken. She had spent her career dreaming of meeting alien life, and now that it was happening, she might have to watch it. Jake made the decision that would change everything. "Amy, you have permission to attempt communication," he said quietly, "but we do this carefully, and we are ready to run if things go wrong." "If things go wrong," Amy nodded and began working on a way to send electric signals back to the creature. She had no idea if it would work, but she had to try. The creature had reached out to them, and she could not ignore its call for help. As night cycle began aboard the New Dawn, Amy continued working on the communication system. Outside the observation windows, the massive alien creature continued its slow drift through space, its crystalline surface pulsing weakly with the rhythm of a dying heart. Amy had been working for 18 hours straight trying to decode the bioelectric signals from the creature. She had converted her medical scanners into a primitive communication device, but the alien patterns were unlike anything in her databases. Creature she had started calling Keeper was growing weaker with each passing hour. Its neural activity was dropping, and the beautiful crystalline patterns on its surface were dimming. Amy could feel time running out as she struggled to understand what it was trying to tell. Herb and Miller brought her coffee and food, but Amy barely noticed. She was completely focused on the scrolling data on her screens. The patterns reminded her of brainwaves, but they were far more complex than any Earth creature could produce. Captain Morrison checked on her progress every few hours. He was getting nervous about staying so close to the alien for so long. Earth Command expected regular reports, and he was running out of excuses for their extended delay. "Me, I know this is important," Jake said during one of his visits, "but we cannot stay here forever. The crew is getting worried, and we have limited supplies." Amy looked up from her work with tired eyes. She had dark circles under them, and her hair was messy from running her hands through it constantly. "Just give me more time, Jake," she pleaded. "I am so close to breaking through." I can feel it. Lisa Stone had been monitoring space around them for any other ships or threats. She was professional. But Amy could see the concern in her eyes every time she looked at the massive alien creature. The breakthrough came when Amy realized she was thinking about the problem wrong. She had been trying to translate the bioelectric signals into human language, but the creature was not using words at all. It was sharing emotions and images directly. I modified her equipment to convert the signals into visual patterns on her screen. What she saw took her breath away. The creature was sharing memories. With her ancient images of space battles and dying worlds, she saw flashes of other creatures like Keeper, massive living ships that moved through space in great fleets. They had been guardians of some kind, protecting smaller worlds from a terrible enemy. Amy could see the fear and sadness in the memories. The enemy appeared as dark mechanical shapes that consumed everything in their path. They were not alive, but they were intelligent and utterly without mercy. Amy watched in horror as the machine enemies destroyed world after world. Keeper had been fighting these machines for what seemed like millions of years. Amy could feel the creature's exhaustion and loneliness. It had been the last of its kind, drifting through space alone. After all, its companions had been destroyed. Amy shared the discovery with her crewmates, but she could see they did not fully understand what she had found. They saw data and readings, but Amy had felt the creature's emotions. She knew it was not just intelligent, but capable of deep feelings. Ben was fascinated by the creature's biotechnology, but worried about their safety. Amy, this thing has weapons systems that could destroy our entire fleet, he said, looking at his scans. Its technology is millions of years ahead of ours. Lisa agreed with Ben. Captain, the creature might seem friendly now, but we have no idea what it is really thinking. It could be luring us into a trap. Hemi shook her head firmly as she looked at her friends. You do not understand, she said. This creature has been alone for longer than human civilization has existed. It is dying, and it reached out to us because it sensed kindness. He began working on a way to send her own bioelectric signals to Keeper. She wanted to share human emotions and thoughts to show the creature it was not alone anymore. The work was dangerous because it required her to connect directly to the alien neural patterns. Jake watched Amy prepare her equipment with growing concern. Amy, what you are planning is too risky, he said. We do not know what connecting to that thing's mind might do to you. Amy looked at the readings, showing Keeper's failing vital signs. The creature was running out of time, and conventional medicine could not help something so alien. She needed to understand its biology from the inside. I have to try, Amy said, as she attached bioelectric sensors to her head. If I can share my knowledge of healing and medicine directly with Keeper, maybe it can repair itself. Ben tried to talk her out of it. Amy, you could damage your brain, or worse. We do not know how human neural patterns will interact with alien ones. Amy had already made up her mind. She activated the connection and immediately felt Keeper's consciousness touch hers. The sensation was overwhelming, like being connected to an ocean of ancient memories and experiences. Through the link, Amy could feel Keeper's pain. The creature had been wounded by weapons designed to destroy its kind. The damage was deep in its biological systems, and it had been slowly dying for thousands of years. Amy shared her knowledge of human medicine and biology with Keeper, showing the creature how Earth life forms healed from injury. She could feel Keeper's amazement at human adaptability and the way human bodies fought disease and repaired damage. The connection worked both ways, and Amy learned about Keeper's incredible biology. The creature was part plant, part animal, and part something else entirely. Its body could regrow damaged parts and adapt to almost any environment. Hemi felt Keeper's gratitude as it began to understand how to repair its damaged systems. The creature had forgotten how to heal after so many years of fighting. It needed to remember how to live, instead of just survive. The process took hours, and Amy felt her strength being drained by the neural connection she was sharing, not just in knowledge, but part of her life force with the dying creature. Jake and the others watched her vital signs with growing alarm. Mimi began to understand that Keeper was not just a creature but a living ship. Its entire body was designed to travel through space and protect other life forms. The crystalline growths were not decorations, but complex sensors and communication arrays. Amy shared more of her knowledge with Keeper. She felt the creature's systems beginning to respond. The neural activity on her screens began to strengthen, and the bioelectric patterns became more organized. Keeper shared images of its homeworld with Amy, a place where creatures like it had been grown in vast gardens. The Guardians had been created to protect organic life from the mechanical enemies that consumed worlds. Amy saw the last great battle where Keeper's companions had sacrificed themselves to stop the machine invasion. The creatures had bought time for other species to escape, but the cost had been terrible. Through the connection, Amy felt Keeper's loneliness and pain, but also its determination to continue protecting life. The creature had been searching for something worth protecting, and had found it in humanity. The neural link began to fade as both Amy and Keeper exhausted themselves with the effort. Amy collapsed in her chair, but she could see on her screens that Keeper's vital signs were stabilizing. Ben rushed to check on Amy, while Jake monitored the readings from the creature. The bioelectric patterns were stronger now, and the crystalline surfaces were beginning to glow more brightly. Amy smiled weakly as she watched. The displays had worked, she whispered. Keeper is healing itself. The creature knows how to repair the damage. Nova. The next few hours, the crew watched in amazement as the massive alien began to recover. Systems that had been dark for millennia began to come online, and the creature's movements became more coordinated. They had formed a bond with Keeper that went beyond simple communication. They had shared minds and emotions in a way that no human and alien ever had before. The creature trusted her completely, and she understood its true nature. As Keeper continued to heal, Amy realized that their encounter was going to change everything. The creature possessed technology and knowledge that could transform human understanding of the universe, but more importantly, Amy had made a friend, an ancient being that had been alone for longer than she could imagine. Keeper was no longer dying, and for the first time in thousands of years, it had hope for the future. The crew of the New Dawn had discovered something incredible in the darkness of space, and Amy knew that this was only the beginning of an amazing partnership between humanity and the last Guardian. Amy woke up 3 days later feeling like her head was full of cotton. The neural connection with Keeper had drained her more than she realized, but the results were beyond her wildest dreams. The massive creature was not just healing, it was coming back to life. Through the observation windows, Amy could see Keeper glowing with soft blue and green light. The crystalline growths across its surface pulsed in complex patterns that reminded her of a vast computer network. The creature was rebuilding itself using knowledge Amy had shared about biological repair. Ben Miller was amazed by what his sensors were detecting. Keeper's biotechnology was rewriting itself at the cellular level, creating new organs and systems. The creature was literally evolving before their eyes, using millions of years of stored genetic information. Jake Morrison had been fielding calls from Earth Command, who wanted to know why the New Dawn had been silent for so long. He had been making excuses, but he knew they would demand answers soon. The discovery of Keeper would change everything. Amy felt a familiar tingling in her mind as Keeper reached out to her through their bioelectric connection. The creature consciousness felt stronger, now more focused and aware. Amy could sense its gratitude, but also something else: excitement. Through the mental link, Keeper began sharing more of its memories with Amy, but these were different from before. Instead of pain and loss, the creature was showing her images of hope and purpose. Amy saw visions of the Guardian fleet in its prime, protecting countless worlds. Keeper showed Amy planets filled with strange and beautiful life forms, civilizations that had grown and flourished under Guardian protection. The creatures had been more than just weapons, they had been teachers and protectors, helping young species learn to defend themselves. Amy gasped as she realized the full scope of what Keeper represented. The creature was a living library containing millions of years of knowledge about space travel, biology, and warfare. It was the last survivor of an ancient galactic civilization. The memories showed Amy, the enemy that had destroyed Keeper's people, the machines called Devourers, were not just weapons but a plague that consumed entire star systems. They turned living worlds into lifeless metal, expanding their territory with each victory. Amy shared what she learned with her crewmates, but she could see they struggled to understand the scale of what they were dealing with. Ben focused on the technology while Lisa worried about the military implications. Captain Jake Morrison realized they could not keep this discovery secret much longer. Earth needed to know about both the opportunity and the threat that Keeper represented, but he also knew that some people would want to use Keeper as a weapon. Amy spent hours communicating with Keeper, learning about Guardian technology and biology. The creature was eager to share its knowledge, especially about healing and protection. The Guardians had been peaceful by nature, preferring to defend rather than attack. Keeper showed Amy how its people had grown living ships and vast biogardens. Each Guardian was unique, shaped by the needs of the worlds it would protect. Some were massive like Keeper, while others were smaller and faster, designed for different types of threats. The most amazing discovery was that Guardians could reproduce, but only with the help of other species. They needed the genetic diversity of multiple life forms to create new Guardians. Amy realized that Keeper had been looking for suitable partners for millions of years. As Amy learned more about Guardian biology, she began to understand why her healing knowledge had been so important to Keeper. The creature had been damaged not just physically but emotionally. The Guardians were empathic beings who suffered when they could not protect others. Amy felt Keeper's excitement as the creature began to see possibilities it had not considered for eons. Humanity might be small and primitive compared to the ancient civilizations Keeper remembered, but humans had something special, the ability to adapt and grow quickly through their connection. Amy could feel Keeper making a decision. The creature had been drifting aimlessly through space for thousands of years, but now it had found a purpose again. It wanted to protect Earth and help humanity prepare for the threats that were coming. Ben was fascinated by the scans, showing Keeper's internal changes. The creature was growing new organs and systems that had been dormant for millennia. Weapons arrays were coming online, along with advanced sensors and communication equipment. Lisa Stone remained concerned about security, but even she had to admit that Keeper showed no signs of hostility toward humans. The creature seemed genuinely grateful for Amy's care and eager to help rather than harm. Amy realized that Keeper was not just healing physically. The creature was recovering its sense of purpose and identity. For the first time in eons, it had hope for the future and beings it wanted to protect. The decision to return to Earth was not easy. Jake knew that bringing Keeper back would cause panic and confusion. Many people would see the massive alien as a threat rather than a potential ally. But they could not leave the creature alone in space. Amy worked with Keeper to plan their return journey. The creature was still weak, but it was strong enough to travel at sublight speeds. It would follow the new dawn at a safe distance to avoid causing alarm as they prepared to leave. Amy felt a mixture of excitement and worry. She had achieved her dream of making contact with intelligent alien life, but she also knew that this was just the beginning of a much larger story. Keeper shared one final memory with Amy before they departed. It was an image of Earth as seen from space, but not as it was now. The planet was surrounded by a network of Guardian technology, biomechanical defenses that could protect it from any threat. Tommy understood that Keeper was showing her a possible future where Earth was defended by Guardian technology. It was an offer and a promise the creature would share its knowledge and protection if humanity was willing to accept it. The journey back to Earth took several weeks, but Amy spent the time learning everything she could from Keeper. The creature was patient and eager to teach, sharing secrets of biotechnology that were millions of years ahead of human science. Ben worked on documenting the Guardian technology, while Lisa prepared reports on the security implications. Jake focused on how to present their discovery to Earth authorities in a way that would not cause panic. Me knew that not everyone would be happy about their discovery. Some people would want to study Keeper like a laboratory specimen, while others would see the creature as a threat to be eliminated. She was determined to protect her friend from both groups. As Earth grew larger on their screens, Amy felt Keeper nervousness through their mental connection. The creature had not been near a populated planet for thousands of years. It was afraid of being rejected or misunderstood by the beings it wanted to protect. Tommy sent reassuring thoughts to Keeper, promising that she would help the creature find acceptance among humanity. She had seen the Guardian's purpose and nobility, and she would make sure others understood. At 2, the new dawn entered Earth orbit, with Keeper following at a respectful distance. The massive creature positioned itself where it could observe but not threaten, staying in the shadow of the moon to avoid detection. Amy stood at the observation window watching Earth slowly rotate below them. She knew that everything was about to change. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had gained a protector unlike anything they could have imagined, but she also knew that with Keeper protection came responsibility. The creature had shown her glimpses of the threats that lurked in deep space. The machines that had destroyed the Guardians were still out there somewhere, and they might come looking for the last survivor. Amy touched the bioelectric interface she wore, allowing her to stay in contact with Keeper. The creature consciousness felt calm and determined. It had found its purpose again, and it was ready to stand guard over its new friends as the new dawn prepared to dock at the orbital station. Amy took one last look at Keeper glowing softly in the darkness. The creature that had been dying when they found it was now fully alive and ready to begin a new chapter in its ancient story. Amy smiled, knowing that she had not just saved a dying creature, but had helped forge an alliance that would change the course of human history. The last Guardian had awakened, and Earth would never be the same. The emergency alarms began screaming throughout Earth Command headquarters at exactly 1400 hours on a Tuesday that would be remembered forever. General Paul Davis rushed to the command center where dozens of technicians were staring at their screens in horror. Deep space monitoring stations beyond Pluto had detected massive objects entering the solar system, objects that matched no known technology and were heading directly toward Earth. The readings showed vessels larger than cities moving at impossible speeds. Amy Carter was in a heated meeting with government officials when the alarms sounded. She had spent 3 months trying to convince world leaders that Keeper was an ally, not a threat, but many remained suspicious of the massive alien creature. General Davis burst into the meeting room, his face pale with shock. "Dr. Carter, we need you in the command center immediately," he said. "Your alien friend may have brought visitors, and they do not look friendly." Amy felt her blood turn cold as she followed the general to the main display screens. The sensor readings showed a fleet of enormous mechanical ships approaching from deep space. Their design was angular and hostile looking, nothing like Keeper's organic curves. Through her bioelectric link, Amy could feel Keeper's sudden alarm and recognition. The ancient Guardian consciousness flooded with memories of terror and loss. Amy gasped as she realized what was happening. The Devourers had found them. Commander Rick Hayes was already mobilizing every ship in Earth Defense Fleet, but Amy could see the hopelessness in his eyes. Human weapons were designed to fight other humans, not alien war machines that were millions of years more advanced. Amy tried to contact Keeper through their mental link, but the creature was overwhelmed with ancient memories of the last great battle. The Guardian had thought the Devourers were gone, destroyed, or dormant, but they had been wrong. The alien fleet moved through the outer solar system like a plague, consuming everything in their path. The automated mining stations near Neptune simply vanished as the machines absorbed their metal and energy. General Davis turned to Amy with desperation in his eyes. "Can your creature friend fight these things?" he asked. "What chance do we have against weapons like that?" Tommy closed her eyes and reached out to Keeper. Through their connection, the Guardian was afraid, but not for itself. It was terrified that it had led the Devourers to another world full of innocent life. The creature blamed itself for bringing this danger to Earth. Commander Hayes' fleet moved to intercept the alien invaders, but Amy knew it was hopeless. Human ships were fast and maneuverable, but they were like insects compared to the massive Devourer vessels. The first engagement happened near Jupiter, where a squadron of Earth destroyers tried to slow the alien advance. The human ships fired everything they had, but their weapons barely scratched the enemy armor. The Devourers responded with beams of energy that disintegrated the destroyers. Instantly, Amy watched the battlefields with tears in her eyes as brave human pilots died trying to protect their world. She could feel Keeper's anguish. Through their connection, the Guardian wanted to help, but it was still positioned near Earth Moon, afraid to reveal itself. Ben Miller was monitoring Keeper's systems from the research station, and he could see the creature preparing for battle. Ancient weapon systems were coming online throughout its massive body. The Guardian technology was awakening after millions of years of dormancy. Lissa Stone coordinated with Earth Defense Forces, trying to organize some kind of resistance, but everyone knew they were facing an impossible enemy. The Devourers had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than human. Matayami made a desperate decision and opened a full mental connection with Keeper. Despite the danger to her own mind, she needed to understand the Guardian capabilities and convince it to act before it was too late. Through the link, Amy felt the full scope of Keeper's power. The creature was not just a living ship, but a weapon of incredible destruction. Its biotechnology could manipulate matter at the molecular level, and its weapons could crack planets in half. But Amy also felt Keeper's reluctance to fight. The Guardians had been protectors, not conquerors, and the last great battle had traumatized Keeper so deeply that it feared using its full power. Amy poured her determination and courage into the mental link, showing Keeper that humanity was worth fighting for. She shared memories of human kindness and creativity, the same qualities that had saved Keeper's life. The breakthrough came when Amy helped Keeper understand that this was not about revenge or conquest, but about protection. The Guardian duty was to defend innocent life, and humanity needed that protection. Now more than ever, Keeper began moving from its hiding place behind the moon, and Amy could feel the creature's resolve strengthening. The Guardian systems that had been dormant for eons activated one by one as ancient weapons prepared for battle. The Devourer fleet had reached the outer edge of Earth orbital space and were beginning their final approach. Their mechanical voices broadcast demands for surrender in a dozen languages, but their intent was clear: they would consume everything. Amy stood in the command center, watching as Keeper revealed itself to the world. The massive creature emerged from behind the moon, glowing with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. Every person on Earth could see it in the sky. Panic spread across the planet as people saw the alien Guardian, but Amy knew they would understand soon enough. Keeper was not their enemy, but their protector. The creature positioned itself between Earth and the approaching Devourer. Fleet General Davis stared at the tactical displays, showing Keeper true size. The creature was even larger than they had realized, easily the size of a small country. Its biomass readings were off the charts. Amy felt Keeper consciousness focus with deadly purpose as the Guardian prepared to do what it had been created for. The creature's body began to transform as dormant systems awakened, and weapons arrays emerged from its organic hull. The first Devourer ship to test Keeper defenses was destroyed so quickly that the human observers barely saw what happened. One moment, the enemy vessel was advancing. The next, it was a cloud of scattered atoms. Keeper had fired some kind of disintegration beam that unmade the Devourer ship at the molecular level. The weapon was beyond anything humans had imagined possible. The ancient Guardian technology was truly awesome to behold. The remaining Devourers responded with concentrated fire from their entire fleet. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains struck Keeper shields, but the Guardian biotechnology absorbed and redirected the attacks harmlessly. Amy watched in amazement as Keeper fought with the grace and power of a creature born for battle. The Guardian moved through space like a living thing, dodging and weaving between enemy attacks, while returning fire with devastating precision. One by one, the Devourer ships fell to Keeper weapons. Their advanced armor and shields were useless against technology that could rewrite the laws of physics. The mechanical invaders had finally met something more powerful than themselves. The Battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours to Amy. She could feel every impact through her link with Keeper and shared the creature's determination to protect Earth. The Guardian fought not just with weapons but with love for the world behind it. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, Keeper let out a bioelectric pulse that Amy felt as pure joy. The creature had not failed this time. It had protected an innocent world and proven that the Guardians were not extinct. Amy collapsed from exhaustion as the mental link faded, but she was smiling through her tears. Keeper had saved Earth and shown humanity that they were not alone in a hostile universe. They had a protector now, a guardian who would stand watch over their world. Davis and the other military leaders stared at their displays in stunned silence. The alien fleet that could have destroyed human civilization had been eliminated by a single creature, a being that Amy had saved from death. Amy had saved from death. Amy knew that everything had changed in those few minutes of battle. Humanity had seen what real power looked like, and they had also seen it used to protect rather than destroy. Keeper was no longer just an alien curiosity, but Earth's guardian angel. As the debris from the Devourer fleet drifted harmlessly through space, Amy felt Keeper's satisfaction through their fading connection. The ancient guardian had found its purpose again, and Earth was safe under its protection. The test was over, and humanity had passed. The guardian that Amy had healed with compassion had proven its loyalty in the most dramatic way possible. Earth now had a protector that even the most advanced alien technology could not defeat. 6 months after the battle that saved Earth, Amy Carter stood in the observation deck of the new Guardian Protocol facility watching Keeper work. In the void above the massive creature was growing something new, crystalline structures that sparkled like diamonds against the black of space. General Paul Davis joined Amy at the window, his expression showing a mixture of wonder and concern. The military leader had been skeptical of Keeper at first, but the alien guardian's protection of Earth had changed his mind completely. Amy, what is it building out there? Davis asked. The readings show massive energy expenditures, but we cannot figure out what those crystal things are supposed to do. Amy smiled as she felt Keeper contentment through their bioelectric connection. The Guardian was creating a defense network around Earth, using technology that was millions of years ahead of human science. Keeper is building orbital defense platforms. Amy explained each crystal can generate shields, or weapons that will protect Earth from any future attacks. The Guardian is making sure that what happened 6 months ago never happens again. Navis nodded slowly as he watched the alien creature work. It was still hard for him to believe that this massive being had saved humanity from extinction. The Devourer fleet would have wiped out every living thing on Earth if Keeper had not intervened. Amy had spent the months since the battle working with world leaders to establish the Guardian Protocol, a new organization dedicated to learning from Keeper and preparing Earth for future threats. She had become the first human to truly understand Guardian technology. Ben Miller now served as chief engineer for the Guardian Protocol, studying the bio-mechanical systems that Keeper had begun sharing with humanity. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it required a completely different way of thinking about machines. Instead of metal and circuits, Guardian technology used living crystals and organic computing systems. The machines could grow and adapt like living things, but they were also incredibly durable and powerful. Lisa Stone had been put in charge of training the first human pilots to work with Guardian technology. It was not like flying normal spacecraft, because the biomechanical fighters responded to thoughts and emotions as much as physical controls. Nimi watched through the window as 2 young pilots practiced flying their new biomechanical fighters. Tony Clark and Maria Lopez were among the first humans to successfully interface with Guardian technology, and their progress amazed everyone. The fighters looked more like living creatures than machines, with smooth organic curves and crystalline wings that pulsed with soft light. They moved through space with fluid grace, responding instantly to their pilots' thoughts. Through her connection with Keeper, Amy could feel the Guardian's pride in its human students. The creature was amazed by how quickly humans learned to work with biotechnology. Most species took generations to master what humans accomplished in months. Amy had established training centers around the world where scientists and engineers learned to grow and maintain Guardian technology. The crystalline computers were incredibly powerful, but they needed constant care, like living organisms. The most important discovery was that Guardian technology worked best when it was paired with human creativity. The biomechanical systems could adapt and evolve, but they needed human imagination to reach their full potential. Amy turned away from the window and walked through the corridors of the Guardian Protocol facility. The halls were lined with growing biocrystals that provided light and processed air. The entire building was alive in a way that amazed visitors in her office. Amy found reports from deep space monitoring stations that Keeper had helped establish around the solar system. The Guardian had grown sensor networks that could detect threats from incredible distances. The reports showed that more Devourer fleets were moving through distant star systems, but they were avoiding the solar system entirely. Word had spread somehow that Earth was protected by a Guardian, and the mechanical invaders were looking for easier targets. Sami felt guilty knowing that other worlds might be suffering while Earth was safe, but Keeper had assured her that this was how things had to be. The Guardian could only protect one world at a time, and Earth was its chosen responsibility. Through their mental connection, Amy could sense that Keeper was planning something big. The creature had been communicating with the crystal defense platforms in ways that human science could not yet understand. Amy reached out through the bioelectric link and felt Keeper excitement. The Guardian was preparing to share its greatest secret with humanity, the knowledge of how to create new Guardians. The process was incredibly complex, requiring genetic material from multiple species and biotechnology that humans were only beginning to understand. But Keeper believed that with time and patience, humanity could learn to grow their own Guardians. Amy gasped as she realized what this meant. Earth would not have to depend on a single ancient creature. For protection, humanity could become Guardians themselves, creating living ships to protect not just Earth, but other worlds as well. The implications were staggering. Amy saw a future where human Guardian pilots traveled between the stars, protecting innocent civilizations from the Devourer threat. Humanity could become what the original Guardians had been before their extinction. Amy felt tears of joy as she shared Keeper's vision. Through their connection, the creature was not just protecting Earth, but preparing humanity to become protectors themselves. The Guardian legacy would continue through human hands. That evening, Amy stood on the observation deck, watching Earth slowly rotate. Below, the planet looked peaceful and beautiful, but she knew it was now defended by technology beyond imagination. Keeper hung in orbit like a second moon, its bioluminescent surface pulsing with the rhythm of life. The creature had kept its promise to protect Earth and had given humanity something even more precious, the knowledge to protect themselves. Amy touched the bioelectric interface that kept her connected to the Guardian and felt the creature's contentment. Keeper was no longer alone, and no longer the last of its kind. Humanity would carry on the Guardian tradition. Children around the world looked up at the night sky and saw Keeper glowing softly among the stars. The creature had become a symbol of hope and protection, reminding everyone that Earth was no longer defenseless. Amy knew that the future would bring new challenges and new threats, but she was no longer afraid. Humanity had a Guardian watching over them, and soon they would become Guardians themselves. The alliance between human and alien had started with a simple act of compassion when Amy chose to heal a dying creature. Now that alliance would reshape the galaxy as humanity took its place among the protectors of innocent life. Amy smiled as she felt Keeper's peaceful presence in her mind. The Guardian that had been alone for millions of years now had a family and a future. Humanity had given the creature what it needed most, hope and purposes. The stars wheeled overhead. Amy made her own promise to Keeper and to Earth. She would work tirelessly to prepare humanity for their new role as Guardians. The universe was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of life worth protecting. The creature Amy had healed with compassion now guarded Earth from orbit, and soon humanity would join it in protecting the galaxy. The age of the Guardians had begun again, and this time, they would not face the darkness alone. Amy closed her eyes and felt the connection between human and Guardian grow stronger with each passing day. The bond that had saved both their species would light the way to a brighter future among the stars.